Happy spring game week, Sooner Nation. It is here. It's coming soon, and the excitement is in the air. Let's hope the weather cooperates because there's a good chance of cooler temps and rain on the horizon for the spring game. But no matter what the temperature is, Hunter, the excitement's there. The excitement's brewing in Sooner Country and Sooner Nation. And first off, before we get started with this video, make sure you check out the FanStop, fanstop.com. Order some shirts, some gear. Specifically, get on the Shirt of the Month Club. You'll be getting a shirt every single month sent to your doorstep. All you got to do is sign up for the Shirt of the Month Club. Use code SURGE. Get 10% off that. Hunter, let's talk about the offensive line and the quarterback position here. Obviously, two positions that go hand in hand. You're not going to have an elite quarterback if the line does not produce, and they really work together. So we're going to talk about both of these position groups. And let's just start with quarterback, Hunter, because obviously QB1 is Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold played last year's spring game. Didn't play his best. I think people are really wanting to see a lot from him. This year, everyone knows he's the guy. You have him coming off the bowl game where he showed glimpses of just absolute stardom. And then you had some plays where you scratched your head and said, man, that's a learning curve that he's got to learn from. But obviously you got that. And then you got the backup that everyone's talking about, Hunter, and Michael Hawkins. So really a lot of talk around the quarterback room.
Yeah, that's what it is at the University of Oklahoma. Quarterback. Won 4 Heismans in the last 20 years at that position. So, yeah, Jackson Arnold, quarterback 1, as you mentioned, in Arizona, that Arizona game. He played really pretty well and then had the blunders. Game just a little fast for him in his first career start. You would have to imagine that it's slowed down some for him. Through this winter, through this spring. I mean, the spring game marks the end of spring football, even closer to SEC football. Do not know the format, as when we are recording this video has not been released yet. So that will play a lot of a factor into it. If it's offense, defense, like it was a year ago, where it was a high scoring kind of not your traditional style of football, or if they kind of split the team down the middle, a draft style. Be interesting to see what they determine. But Jackson Arnold last year's spring game, he made a highlight play, just didn't count in the stat book when he took off, and they called him down. I beg to differ on that one. I think even if they were going live, he might score on that. But went 6 for 14 with 64 yards and a touchdown through the air that game. So would want to see a better game from him. And I mean, you mentioned it. There's the reason we're talking about quarterback, offensive line together. It matters. Jackson Arnold did not have a great offensive line against Arizona in the bowl game, kind of just piecing together from the injuries from the guys that went ahead and went pro. So have to see what kind of improvements they have made throughout the winter and the spring for Bill Bedenbaugh.
Yeah, and one thing we do know about the spring game, the quarterbacks aren't going to get hit, Hunter. And really what Michael Hawkins has shown, I mean, he's got the legs, he's got the speed. It's going to be hard to tell on certain things, even with Jackson Arnold scrambling. I mean, that's just so hard to tell in a spring game atmosphere. But what I want to see from the quarterback play, specifically Jackson Arnold, is I want to see him maybe not make the throws into triple coverage. I want to see him take some chances, though. I want to see the long ball often. I want to see what kind of ball he throws deep. I want to see him looking off a couple of receivers, maybe making a progression or two, things like that. I do want to see that. I want to see the pocket presence. But you did mention the offensive line, Hunter, and that is it's TBD, to be determined. And I think we're going to get there Saturday and say, okay, this looks to be maybe who they're going to go with early. But overall, here's what I know we've talked about a lot during this offseason, Hunter. They've got the size. They've got the bodies as far as number-wise now. They just don't have a lot of experience. So it will be interesting what happens. One I'm specifically wanting to see is Josh Bates at center. That's something we can easily tell physically. Okay, Is he making the snaps? Are they good snaps to the quarterback? Are the linemen getting any push off the ball? Things like that. But what are your thoughts on the O-line, Hunter?
Yeah, I mean, kind of summed it up there. There's a lot of guys in that room. I think 14, 15 guys. Only 5 are going to start. Josh Bates would have to imagine, unless Troy Everett's able to come back, would be the starter at center. And then really the only other one you can kind of imagine as for sure starters, Fabechi and Weewoo, transfer from North Texas, who looks to have a bright future ahead at Oklahoma. Everything else, I mean, you got to see it. This is the first time that, I mean, me and you are going to be seeing this team, what they've been able to accomplish this spring and winter in the weight room and on the practice field. So, yeah, a lot of position battles there, I would imagine. It's going to be interesting to see, one, the first team, if that is how they go. Again, format kind of determines a lot of it. Maybe they kind of format it to where offensive line kind of can get that first team look that they are eventually, that what they project to be the first team once August comes around. Crazy saying it in August, first game of the season, Friday night too against Temple. So yeah, the gelling of the offensive line, got to see it. I mean, there's guys that I think individually could be really good. Ethos Ida, Jacob Sexton. I was impressed with him when he took over for Tyler Guyton last year. And then who's the other tackle? There's a lot of options there. A lot of options at guard as well.
Yeah, and there's some guys banged up still. I don't know that we're going to see Hatchett right at all. There's just some guys we don't know about. And one thing that I think is lacking besides the experience, Hunter, is really not a clear-cut leader on the offensive line vocally. You got new guys.
I don't know if you could say that. I mean,
well, from last year. I'm saying from last year.
Probably not. Maybe Jacob Sexton.
I mean, I think Rain last year was one of the vocal leaders.
They had a lot of vocal leaders, I would say. I mean,
McCade Matoyer, yeah.
Between Andrew Rain, McCade Matoyer, Walter Rouse as a transfer seemed to have a very strong presence. Tyler Guyton is going to be a first-round pick. You would have to imagine that he had some sort of a locker room presence there. So, and then at other guard, you had a few different guys there.
Yeah.
Katie Green. And
one of these guys, you mentioned Sexton. Yeah, I think Sexton maybe makes the most sense as far as someone who's going to be a leader. I do think Fabechi has a lot of experience, just not with this club. Maybe he leads. He's been around Seth Luttrell. He knows the system. I can foresee him being one of the leaders on this line. And Jackson Arnold's got to be the leader. DG was clearly the leader. It's Jackson Arnold's team now. He's got to take that step. So that's also something I think we can look for as we're in the audience watching this is, okay, who's kind of taking charge on the line and seeing what Jackson Arnold does in the huddle, because there are some guys, Hunter, that could play that we don't know if they are. And those are guys like Jake Taylor, Tarquin, Heath Zida, who?
Spencer Brown,
right. So
and then you have the freshman too, Eugene Brooks. Daniel Akinkunmi's banged up. So yeah, there's a lot of options there. And then to the backup quarterbacks, you have Michael Hawkins, a ton of buzz. I mean, it seems like if you are talking about OU football right now, Michael Hawkins is the name that's brought up probably more than anyone. Then you also have Brendan Zerber, then General Booty. So those 4 in the spring game, the rotations between them, would have to assume that Hawkins is close to being the backup. Don't know with Casey Thompson coming off the injury, that veteran presence that he has won't be in the spring game where that all pans out. But yeah, excited to see there's new faces in the quarterback room outside of just Jackson Arnold. It is the Jackson Arnold show. I mean, 5-star quarterback from Denton Guyer, Elite 11 MVP out of high school, Gatorade Player of the Year, and he has all the accolades and has the potential to be the next Sooner great at quarterback. So, I mean, how could you not be excited to see that? But seeing some of the new guys there and Hawkins, Zerber, it's going to be exciting all around offensively for the Sooners.
Yeah, and the other thing, Hunter, is you do have, depending on the format again, I think there's more intrigue watching this offense because you're going to watch both teams. You got to watch the O-line on the other team as well because there's so many guys you don't know who the starters are going to be. So you're going to have to watch the two deep, maybe a little closer than you would in years past, specifically on the offensive line. Other positions, maybe not as much, but I think the offensive line, you're looking at 8 to 10 guys thinking, okay, who's it going to be? So there's going to be some intrigue there.
Yeah, with the way it's building up for the Sooners going into the SEC, I mean, I don't think you can just watch the game once live and be able to gather everything. It's going to take at least a few rewatches on ESPN Plus to really break down how the offensive line's looking, how is the defense looking. Defense tends to dominate these spring games, so you kind of got to factor that in as well and just kind of get a feel of what the ceiling could be for Oklahoma in 2024.